After 5 weeks at home and 1 week on the road, Auburn finally gets that week off, a bye week. Gus Malzahn in town for the quarterback club this week in Birmingham. James Crepea there to get some information from him, to get some updates. And we start with Kerryon Johnson, a running back, of course, sustaining an ankle injury against Mississippi State. Any updates on his current status, James?
Well, Gus said that he rolled his ankle. And on one hand, you say, what do you expect him to say if it was a more severe injury? Gus is probably not going to disclose that in a bye week. But Kerryon was back on the sideline late in that game on crutches. It didn't appear to be too severe, initially speaking. He hobbled off on his own accord. It wasn't like he was down and being carted off or something. So apparently just a rolled ankle. The hope is that he would be back for Arkansas, but I think a lot more will be known in about a week or so.
Now, this is always a good week to try new things, something that you reported on yesterday in terms of Jason Smith at wide receiver, now taking some reps at quarterback. Elaborate on that and what the significance of this means.
Yeah, well, we had seen a couple of photographs from practice that showed that Jason Smith was lined up with the quarterbacks in an orange no-contact jersey and taking reps there. That's not terribly unusual, as Gus had said. You know, he had done it in the spring, he had done it in the past, and it's limited reps, as it's being characterized as limited reps at the moment. That said, Jason Smith has almost been non-existent at wide receiver for Auburn this season. He has no catches, didn't play at all at Mississippi State, had just one carry earlier in the season. So you say, all right, well, if his role at wide receiver is diminished or, again, almost non-existent, could he spend time at quarterback, not on a starting role? Look, Sean White is performing very well. He's leading the SEC in completion percentage, and the team is 4-2 and 2-1 in the SEC. So I'm not saying there's a quarterback change coming, but I'm saying that Jason Smith getting any reps at quarterback could be an indication of a potential position change, not to necessarily compete for the starting job. Again, that's not realistic. I think you're talking about more of, does he implement plays to possibly even compete, with JF3 even, potentially for the number 2 or number 3 spot? Or is it just a personnel package that they're looking at? Not sure yet. Obviously, Malzahn is not going to disclose a ton, but it is something interesting that we'll keep following up on as we speak with Brett Lashley and, again, speak with Gus in the days and weeks to come, because Jason Smith just hasn't spent a lot of time at wide receiver.
Now, looking at the back half of this football season, Auburn coming off a big 38-14 win against Mississippi State. And even despite not putting a lot of points on the board there in the second half, offensive productivity down. Gus Malzahn said, ain't going to be negatives for me today after the game on Saturday. Just your thoughts on this team, the momentum and the optimism surrounding them as they head into week 8 of the season.
Sure. Well, obviously at 1-2, and you have 2 tough losses to what are now 2 of the top 10 teams, top 6 teams in the country. That's a tough start, especially at the time, but a tough win and a close win against LSU at home, you start feeling a lot better. You knew you were going to get the win over ULM, and you go on the road and win in the SEC, and look, that's never easy. That said, Mississippi State is probably going to finish last in the SEC West, so let's not make it to be this ultimate road victory, but it's an important road victory, and they did it in dominant fashion. So beating bad teams and beating them soundly is what a good team is supposed to do. And Auburn has improved to 4-2 and 2-1 in the SEC. That's important. Look, if they had lost to Mississippi State at 3-3 and 1-2 in the SEC, particularly, again, a Mississippi State team that's not very good, people would be feeling very differently about this program and about this team. The fact is they are 4-2 overall. And, they have a couple of weeks now to recuperate and get ready for a home game with Arkansas. And I think that Arkansas game is going to be a major pivotal game potentially for the entire season, because you start looking at the back half schedule, obviously road trips to Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama down the stretch, home game with Arkansas, you have Vandy coming to Auburn. You have a couple of tough games in there, certainly, and the road trips in particular. So being at 4-2 is a great spot, because even in the event of disaster, you know that Vanderbilt is not competitive at the moment, and Alabama A&M is a guaranteed victory. So at least you're looking at 6 wins. But the Arkansas game could be extremely pivotal, and you just don't know what could happen with Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama down the stretch.
Very good points there, James. Thank you so much. Of course, Brett Lashley, some of the players talking with the media later tonight. And for all those updates, you can visit us on AL.com.